So Ashley, are you, you got the crew all lined up? Tuesday, you're gonna be here,
No, from Thompson, sure.
right? Yeah, they didn't officially decide till. But I mean, usually you get everybody lined up to do the crew. Yeah. So all the money we're saving, I like the suite at the top. What was the hotel in Ken and Monica were in? You, last year? Yeah, I know.
Well, I didn't know what I did.
Yeah, but they were up the big tower. They were the one that's right down the street from, evidently, worse than me.
First of all, you are live. Just so everybody knows you're live.
No, thank you. Yeah. August 6th through the 10th. They just officially announced that they were going to go ahead with it. Yes, and they decided that on Monday. Where do they go? No, right across the river.
It's right on Basin.
That big hotel, convention center is. Oh, that's what that is? Yeah. So we just take ferries across. I think once Fred stayed at that hotel over there, but nobody else.
Is that for the GMA?
It's expensive too. He's more important than the rest of us.
Have they opened the registration? What about?
That's right on the,
You do all that on your insurance.
yeah, that's the one with the rooftop bar.
You go to state.
You know, I hadn't delved into it. Let's see, we've got the registration.
Same building as one attached.
Good morning. I don't think any coffee's over there. It is not?
So you'll be at the.
Well, there was.
The double tree. Yeah.
How are you?
Well, part of their packet was listing pricing. You might even, I did see it somewhere. Here you go. Here's your hotel pricing here, but I don't think River Street is one of the official hotels for them. We'll stay there, that's nice. If you get, but that's only 3 stories tall, you want to have a view of the river. You have to be on the 3rd floor or forget. Yeah, city side. City is a shitty, but they don't call it shitty, it's really hard to sell those rooms when they call it shitty. And I know all about the hotel business. You can tell the inappropriate comment.
Oh, yeah, I sure did.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
It's so hard, but they all leave.
Not officially yet.
Out west, you have to wear these things.
All right.
Yeah,
Yeah, good.
they're mask mandates on 15. I haven't seen everybody's bottle on their face in so long.
Hey, welcome back, by the way. You had a heck of
It
a
was a
trip.
great trip.
I mean, I knew almost all those places until you got,
Well, I tell you, if we ever want to study city plan, Bend, Oregon is the coolest place.
which place?
Bend.
Bend is nice, yeah.
It's so,
Yeah.
and it's all new. I mean, it's.
Really? Huh.
We're gonna call that meeting to order.
That's just a test.
It's working.
I would ask if you have cell phones to please turn them off at this time. We will stand and have prayer by Councilmember Lathan and pledge of the flag by Councilmember Joyce.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If you'd like to pray with us, please remain standing. Heavenly Father, we ask today that you be with us, that you open our brains and our hearts and our minds, that we may serve the constituents of this fine city. We ask, Lord, that the things that we do, that they will glorify your name. In Christ's name, amen.
Amen.
Mr. Woodruff he's postponing his presentation to our July work session, which will be July 2nd, I believe. So at this time, we have with us the Chamber of Commerce presentation from Mr. Bob Hughes. If you would come, Mr. Hughes. Thanks for being with us this morning.
Can you hear me all right?
Yes, sir.
And for the record, I'm Bob Hughes. I'm the president of the Chamber of Commerce and Economic Development Director. My office is at 118 North Main Street, Madison, Georgia. Well, good morning. Again, one of the things I wanted to do is I've got some prepared comments that I'm going to open it up for questions. But I was watching the live stream that you did on some of the budget questions. And as the council knows, I made a request for an increase in the budget for economic development for FY22. To help explain why the recent request was then further amended with another request to increase the original request, let me take you back a few years. In 2006, a community assessment funded by Georgia Power was conducted by CH2M Hill, Lockwood Green. The study recommended a single point of contact for economic development. And David, correct me if I'm wrong because you were here at the time. They also recommended hiring a full-time director of economic development for the Development Authority of Morgan County, with an increased funding for the Development Authority to $300,000 a year. The council at that time, in conjunction with the Board of Commissioners, decided to house the function at the Chamber of Commerce. After interviews conducted by representatives of the Development Authority, the Chamber of Commerce, the city, and the county, I was offered the position. The budget was set at $76,000, with the city paying $26,000. That was for a part-time job. In 2008, the city increased their participation to $34,563, bringing the total to $84,563. Marguerite Copeland, as you know, had cancer. She passed away in 2011. After an interim period, I was offered the role of president of the Chamber of Commerce in 2011. For comparison, the FY21 budget was for $85,240. That means that basically the difference between the 2008 budget and the 2020-21 budget is less than 1%, or it's approximately $677. So it's been basically flat for 13 years. My original request of March 15 was for fiscal year 22 was for a total of $91,260, which would allow for an update to the ED section of the Chamber website to cover increased dues from outside professional organizations to which I belong, and travel and developer activities. There is no salary increase. Subsequent to my submission, The Finance Committee of the Chamber suggested we look at the allocation of time spent for development activities. Prior to the pandemic, I was involved in a number of chamber activities. I served on the board of the statewide chamber organization, the GACCE. I conducted the semi-annual tour of homes. We did a bunch of the business after hours and other things like that were all chamber related. Over the last few years, my attention has shifted away from chamber activities to more on workforce development, industrial recruitment, and working with existing industries and businesses to meet their needs. The Finance Committee suggested allocating more of my salary to the ED bucket since my shift in activities had occurred. This request for $50,000 from the city and $50,000 from the county will allow me to allocate about 90% of my salary to economic development, leaving approximately 10% to the chamber. This will more closely align my salary with my functional activities and will do away without any kind of cross-subsidization. The city, as you know, has jurisdiction over the main industrial site we have at Madison Farms, and we have met with 2 major projects for the site since the beginning of this year. And by we, I'm talking about David and Adam Esters at the county and anybody else that was appropriate. The other site is the Madison Business Park, which is located on Pierce Dairy Road, which is not currently in the city, but if water and sewer are required, that site would likely be annexed into the city. As you know, there's been significant development at Stanton Springs, which is under the auspices of the Joint Development Authority of Jasper, Morgan, Newton, and Walton counties. My involvement with those industrial concerns locating in the park has increased over the last couple of years. The JDA recently closed on an additional 655 acres north of I-20, right there at the 278 area. We're currently working with 2 major industrial prospects and several commercial prospects interested in the region and specifically at Stanton Springs. I've also been seeing increased interest in the Buckhead area, especially at exit 121, but there are issues with that property that could preclude development for a few years. I'm continuing to work with the Georgia Safari Conservation Park as they move forward with their development. That's why we have a 50-50 split between the city and the county, because we're spending as much time in the county with their activities, more in the Stanton Springs and area just south than I do in the city. And with that, I'll go ahead and answer any questions y'all might have about my budget requests.
I think you said the last time that your budget was increased was when? When was the last time your budget increased?
It has been slowly increasing over time by dribs and drabs, and that was more to try to bring the city up to parity with the county, and then the county to come up to parity with the city. Because there was a time when the then county administrator decided to take the $50,000 that they were allocating to the chamber and slash it to like 24, and we finally talked about the 36, and that's now slowly coming up. But basically, if you look over with the $100,000 total budget that we're looking at now, it's about a 17% increase over what it was in 2008. So that's about a 17% increase over 13 years.
So approximately how many businesses in our city and county is a member of the chamber?
We've got well over half of the businesses are part of the Chamber of Commerce. When you start looking at individuals that are operating out of their house, they're not members, but all of our major industries, with the exception of Pennington, are members of the chamber, and a lot of our local businesses, service providers are. We don't have a whole lot of retail, but we do have restaurants and some of the folks out on the on 441 who are members.
And this number is in the current budget, is that right, David? So the increase is, or?
I believe it's the original request that Bob made. It's not the increased amount. It's not in the budget, is my understanding.
Okay.
That is correct.
Okay.
I think 91,240 total, whatever half of that is, was the city allocation.
Okay.
And then subsequent to my request, my finance committee in April, after our April board meeting, asked to sit down and look at where we are on allocation, and they said, you know, you're doing more stuff ED than you are doing.
Yeah, so it sounds like
chamber.
the whole business, or your whole model has changed.
It has.
And the old ways of doing business, I mean, not that they're old, but the ways of doing business have shifted and your responsibilities have shifted. So you're basically asking that this amount of money go to just to economic development, and the chamber, your role as chamber head would just be 10%, is that right?
Well,
or-
10% of my salary.
Salary,
You know,
gotcha.
There's a separate budget for the chamber that's paid for by
Yeah.
dues and other grants that the chamber receives.
Yeah.
And I've taken Shay out of the ED budget because she
Okay.
does more chamber stuff.
That's right,
And so
that's what I
she's
thought.
more over in the chamber and I'm more in
Gotcha.
economic development.
Okay, that makes sense.
Did I understand, Bob, from your interesting timeline there, that originally, going back a ways, the split between the city and the county was less than half for the city and majority for the county? Did I get that right?
That is correct.
Okay, now we're looking at 50-50 now. What is the reasoning behind why we should be on a par with the county, considering how much time you spend with Stanton Springs, which is not even in the county?
Well, you know, the city has got the two major industrial parks and a lot of industrial properties located in the city of Madison. And as David knows, we've talked to a lot of prospects that have come in and looked at things. If you're in the city, you're also in the county. There's an argument that it could be made and has been made that the county ought to pick up 100%. That's really a battle between the city and the county and
Not much.
not me.
It's not.
Have you made a presentation to the county to get an increase similar to what you're asking us to do
I
today?
have, and they've got $50,000 in their budget that they just had a hearing on earlier this week.
Which is 50,000 increase or
No,
50,000?
it's 50,000.
And what was it in their last budget?
They were the same thing as the city, like 48, I think it is. Let's see, 42.7.
Bob, I got a quick question. I saw the county got, what was it, $1.6 million or so?
$1,240,000, I think it was.
From Stanton Springs,
That's correct.
Does any of that get shared with the city?
No. And again, when you stop and look at any of the benefit that comes through to the county, because a resident of the city also pays county taxes, they do see relief.
Oh, yes, I understand.
Because they're part of the Board of Education, 60% of any money that comes in from Stanton Springs goes to the Board of Education. So current residents would see that, but the city government doesn't see anything of that. City government would see some increase on water sales or gas sales if we had run the lines in there, but with the new, I can't call on Facebook, the new Baymare expansion basically truncated our water supply to that area. But the anticipation is if a development occurs on the north end, Stanton Springs North, the new 655 acres, that the city would be a participant in the gas.
Yes.
But Newton County Water and Sewer Development Authority is going to take care of the water.
And I think most of us, if you have a conversation with Bob, I think we know that he's really concerned about our city and our county. And
Yeah, and the reason I came, is I know that there's some concern because your budget in the city is a little bit tighter than what it is over in the county because of the flow of revenues. And I just wanted to come in and just kind of explain why my request was what it was.
And I don't believe, even though I know we're working on our budget, I don't know how our council members feel, but this certainly won't be, to me, a big increase to our budget, something that the city cannot afford,
Was it 8,000 from last year? Is that what it was last year? Is that what you said, 42 last year?
We
for
were-
You said
each?
48.
Yeah, it's about, no, it was, I've got the numbers right here, forgive me for a
I think it was
minute.
about 3,500 a month, as I recall, signing checks.
That's correct.
Does that sound about
And so
right?
it would go up to,
So what?
what's the difference?
It's about $8,000.
About $8,000.
That's what I thought.
$7,009.
So that the 8,000 is the difference between what is already budgeted for your first increase to the second,
Actually, it's the increase from what I'm making now
to
to
your,
what
your.
I'm asking for.
your
That includes
revised.
both
Yeah,
requested.
the difference between the 91.2 that I asked for originally and the 100 is the difference, and it's about $4,000 that the city share.
Can I ask you, Bob, how often, since it's a relatively small investment and probably with good returns, I think, from the city's perspective, I don't recall seeing a lot of reports, however. either I've missed them or maybe they're not being produced, but personally, I would like to see some kind of a regular report as to what our money is buying, to be blunt.
I would love to be able to do that. Pandemic kind of slowed that down.
Yeah.
I used to come over and present about a quarterly basis, I think it was.
Yeah.
You know, kind of an update on where we were in the city and the county. Pandemic just kind of put the brakes on that.
Is that something then, once, if we do decide to give the increased
Love
amount
it.
you're asking
Love
for,
it.
that's something you can get back to?
Absolutely.
So I know you do that for that yearly thing, the county, the yearly meeting that the city,
The chamber does.
yeah,
Oh, and yeah, we do an update.
yeah. I've been to that many times, but,
But
okay.
yeah, I would be more than happy to, anytime, do it on a monthly basis if you want to do that, or, you know, more
So
often.
tell me about the
That's
house,
not
like
what
where
we're
you're
doing.
housed now. Has it been beneficial to have that space, that visibility right there on the square and people pull in? I mean, and I know we give you, you're not paying, are y'all paying rent now? I know for a
No.
while, we were able to give you housing without.
Well, one of the things we did when we traded, basically, the old chamber building, which is the fire station,
Yeah.
originally City Hall at some
Yeah.
point in time, we took that and gave it to the city.
That's right.
And as compensation for that, the city gave me space.
That's right.
So
Okay.
rather than having money change hands, it's almost like a barter system.
Okay. And
And we pay all the utilities. We are hooked up to the phone,
so you
System.
utilities, I gotcha.
but we pay our own utilities, we pay our own internet service
Gotcha.
and fire, insurance protection, things like that.
Good. Okay. So that's a good location. It's been a good spot.
It's a great
for-
spot.
So that people can just see and pull in, and
Mm-hmm.
that's working out.
And we've got you know, most of you have been in, or the city has used at one time, our ED conference room,
Yeah.
which is a better setup than what we had before, because now you can hear what you're saying and hear
You've
what
got a
somebody's
TV.
saying.
Do you have this kind of apparatus or anything
I
that
don't.
you can do Zoom
I-
meetings
I
or?
can do Zoom meetings. I have to take my laptop in and hook up, but
Okay.
we have AirTame, which is
Okay.
the little wireless thing that's hooked up to my computer. So I can set up and do presentations if need be in that conference area.
That-
And we've entertained industrial prospects
That
before
way.
and have shown overhead schematics and some of the drone footage I've got of some of the industrial sites.
Well, you
And what
probably,
about with the governor's office or with the EMCs with internet? I mean, I've kind of given up on some of that but because
Mm-hmm.
the technology has changed with satellites but fiber or cable through the EMCs. Where are they in that, and how is that affecting
Well-
some of the locations that you're talking about, like Pierce Dairy Road? And
Yeah.
I mean, I know that rail has always been somewhat of an issue on some of those pieces.
It is the rail and the topography of the
Yeah,
land and
yeah.
the fact that there's a stream that runs
That's right.
parallel to, the, you
Yeah.
know, it depends on which side of the railroad track or the stream yard the railroad tracks are. We're working with the county and with Central Georgia EMC on, they're trying to light up the south end of the county.
Okay.
The northern end is controlled by Walton EMC, and I don't mean to speak for them, but I have heard that they're not really interested in pushing internet service because a lot of their customers, particularly in Walton County, City of Madison,
Yeah.
Rutledge, already have internet.
We need to get them interested.
We do,
Well,
well.
I thought the
they-
EMC, I thought.
They're
they're-
they're and I, you know, sometimes I hesitate to talk because I know this is recorded in the press pics, and
Yeah.
that's all fine.
So I try to be
But, you know, what happens in Walton County doesn't always spill over into the northern end of Morgan County. I'm lucky I have good internet through AT&T, but there are tons of people out there that are on Walton who don't have anything.
That's true.
So for the south end, through this money and through an EMC who is set up the same way that Walton is, they operate essentially the same way. For gosh sakes, they use a lot of the same graphics on their bills.
Mm-hmm.
Their bills look alike. We really should encourage Walton to get more. They're in the gas business, for gosh sakes.
Yes.
They should be in, and they control the poles. They have all the infrastructure, and they have the ability that we somehow should get them interested.
Yeah.
I don't know
Well,
how.
In the conversation that we had with Central, and if you look at the map of Morgan County, for instance, anything north of I-20 there have already been service providers that got federal monies to do some of
Yeah.
their extensions and things like that. Part of the hook of that federal money was that within a time period, they were supposed to supply internet service for everyone. And that.
That hadn't happened.
They're not doing it yet.
Yeah.
The clock has not run out. The hope is that you'll find folks like the Windstreams and some of the other communication providers that are more interested in the selling you cable as much as anything else, got that grant. They're on the hook to be able to provide internet service, and they should be doing it.
You know, the Recovery Act funding, it's a big chunk of it is focused directly on broadband improvements. And I think once that money starts flowing in, which should be relatively soon, I think you'll see some real improvement all around for that.
I've lost faith in that.
Have you?
Yeah.
We have lost, I can't tell you how many concerns have come and given our office a call about, we want to come locate in Morgan County, tell me what your internet is.
I mean,
I had a young-
especially with Facebook data, I mean, the data, anything that's an offshoot of any of that high tech is, we're going to lose
Well,
because
if-
we don't have it.
And again, if you look at, and I'm not calling, Baymare or Morning Hornet, as they prefer to be called, at task, they've got 3 internet providers that come into their facility. This is large bundles of fiber. And they have basically specified you cannot share that bundle with anybody.
Yeah.
So, and they says, we're paying for it, or we're gonna be paying for it, and it's ours, it's mine. And we have made, and Sheriff Markley has often made the statement that just give us one strand, and let's just open up that one strand and let
So what's the new sheriff's department? I mean, is everything around the bypass? So my question is are there areas in Madison that we should encourage development for another industrial park, like a high-tech industrial park? Do we already have that at Stanton Springs? I mean,
Well-
and or is that even to the old way of thinking and everybody's working differently
No,
now?
Stanton Springs is basically sold out, and that's why they bought this extra
Gotcha.
655 acres. They've got maybe 90 in the old site that's still available. The problem is, we've got 2 industrial parks that are owned by a third party. It's not owned by the development or controlled by the development authority or the city or the county or anybody else. So when it's like the development out at 121, I was subject to the landowner. And if the landowner says, I don't want to play, there's no game. The area along the bypass is something that we've looked at on the future land use and looked at it on the growth opportunities that might exist in the future, and that is a prime area for development.
Yeah.
The Georgia Sheriff's Association, I'm working with them as far as their bonding right now. When they build their facility across from the hospital, that's going to be one more commercial establishment that's opening up along that corridor. There's a limit on how many curb cuts you can have, and I think however many curb cuts are done. There are going to be some restrictions from the county's perspective. So if anything's in the county, if you wanted to have housing, for instance, it's going to have to be a subdivision, which, as you know, is going to be additional cost of putting in roads and water and sewer and all those other things. So there are limits on what you can do.
But the internet there at the sheriff, are they able to get good internet?
They're able to get good internet.
On the bypass, so that's kind of the key there.
If you talk to our friends at AT&T, anybody can get good internet
just have to
anywhere
pay
if
for
you're
it.
willing to pay $800 a month. And for an individual, that's just
Yep.
not, doesn't work.
Well, Bob, we do thank you for your presentation. I'd just like to get a nod from my council members if they would agree to this increase to go on our consent agenda on our next council.
Mr. Mayor,
This budget.
it'll be folded into the budget, so I don't think it would require that you would vote on this individually unless you just wanted to, that we would go ahead and fold this into the budget and you could approve it at that time.
And if you would, David, if you want to get, and just tell me when you want me to show up on a quarterly basis or monthly basis, I'll be happy to make that part of my normal operations.
Monthly could be a bit much, Bob. Don't take that personally, but
but yeah, quarterly or semi-annually, whatever works. And of course, if we have a major project come up, then we may have to come before the council and basically talk about, who they are and what they are and everything else, because anytime we start looking at abatements, as we've done in the past, I always try to involve you guys to see if it's okay.
Thanks, Bob.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate you. Thank you, sir. Downtown
Can I stick
development.
around here? Yeah, Tom?
Yeah, stick around because we're going to be selling some surplus Dell equipment that you might need for your office. So you can get,
Downtown
might be an
Development
upgrade.
Authority update. Councilmember Lathan?
Mr. Mayor, we're going to give a formal one in July, but
Okay.
just briefly, I think everybody knows that we've divested ourselves of the lots on College Street, and they're back on, and they're sold, they're back on the tax rolls, and also on North Second Street. We have been in the process of just taking a look at the income that we've got coming in and figuring out what debt to pay down and what to we feel that we need to possibly keep some money on hand because construction costs are going sky high. We've got the project going on West Washington, Adrian's. The costs are going up every day on materials. And so we're trying to make sure we have the money available to finish it. So we're going to save a little money there and keep it back for a rainy day. But we are paying down debt, and I will give a formal report on that in July. And also, we'll have a presentation, and Ben Whitby will probably do that presentation for me, but we'll have a very formal one with pictures and all that kind of stuff. But if you haven't been on Wheat or March, I know you have, but that project is really moving. So
what's the date of completion? I don't know if you know, but the one of the big neighborhoods on Michael Way sold, and the new landlord has increased the rents 30% and expects them to pay it by July 1st. And so I'm telling those folks, because those rents were somewhat affordable, they were $650, and now they're going to be $900. The relief might be this project. So what's the completion date? Do you know?
So just a brief housing moment.
Mike,
Microphone, mask.
So just a brief update on housing things. The trailer park has gone all the way up to 900. Michael Way has gone from 650 to 900, and this was all reported by the housing team members when we had our last meeting. And for those of you who don't know, Madison on the Creek has gone to 1,300 for 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom, 2-room units. Our cleaning lady for the Gilmore House came in and told me yesterday she's having to move back to Albany because she can't afford housing here anymore. And so we do have a rent escalation that is occurring citywide, and just be aware of that. So we are getting multiple phone calls on Canaan Crossing. So the answer that you may share with your constituency is that they expect to be in full occupation in February 22. That is their drop dead date for rolling it out. Gene Porter has given them preliminary approval if they can get all the site things in. If one building is already erected and ready, then they can go ahead and lease that up while they're building and finishing out the other buildings. So we've got some latitude on that. The earliest they will probably be taking applications is August. So I've already started getting phone calls. If you would tell them that they could hold that phone call to the 1st of August, there's no need to call me. I can't help them with anything until the 1st of August.
What's the website for the application?
There's no website for the
Is you?
application until the 1st of August.
No,
And then
no, it's not. No, it's
it's
not us.
WODA. It
I was
is
about
not.
to say, but where is
We
the
can't,
WODA?
we don't have anything to tell them
But
right now.
somebody is telling people to call me, and so I'm getting
Well, it's
phone
not
calls
me,
now.
I promise.
I didn't mean to imply that. But just be aware that a lot of people are already asking about Canaan Crossing.
Yeah.
There will be a rental sign that goes up on the property. The likelihood is they'll probably use their leasing office at Silver Lakes, just like, because it's already built, it's already there. And they won't be taking applications until around the 1st of September. Or they won't even take a waiting list till the 1st of September. They want to see stuff starting to come online, and there may be some occupancy in November.
Is there any, and I know that this happened with Silver Lakes, where people from other states were checking their website, and I understand that there's so much that government can control, but is there any way that people that live here can have somewhat of a priority before?
No, that's a violation of fair housing law.
I didn't know that.
So the way it worked last time and the way it works this time is when they get that federal money, they're required to advertise a certain radius. They hit Covington, Greensboro, Eatonton, they'll hit their market because the federal constituency doesn't want to see a lack of occupancy. So therefore, they have a broad market they spread to. However, they usually give us a heads up in advance, and just like last time, our housing team starts putting the word out.
So there's that aggressive,
to make it easy for our people. They can't advertise to just our people, but we can.
Okay.
So our housing team will identify who the primary contact is. It is not the city. They will identify when they will take applications, and they will put the phone number and the website out there. We did it with door hangers last time, and I believe that that's why Silver Lakes ended up being 65-35% local versus non-local, is because our housing team was aggressive in notifying people.
And I think, Chris, as the cost of living index in Morgan County goes up, that makes out-of-state people coming here to stay there is less attractive.
Okay.
Because we don't compete quite as well as poorer, less, quote, affluent counties.
Well, I know that some of the folks that
'Cause
moved in
rent
there
is
were out
pegged
of
to that.
state, and not that it's just that we've got so much need here. It would be awesome.
Well, they were from out of state, I know, but a lot of them grew up here.
Coming back home.
Some of those people were coming back home.
And Chris, I did talk to the owner that bought the place out there. It's nothing the city can do when they raise the prices, but
I know.
he did say they had to go and do a lot of renovations because no renovation has been done on that site for the last 10 years. So, but we're out of it, you know.
Yeah, well, I understand that. It's
Yeah.
just.
Well, that's a
very-
primary reason for,
We're going to experience a big flux of people with nowhere to live. They can't afford it.
that's one reason why we're really pushing to get this done. And you might as well, it's going to happen all across the country, in my opinion. Rents are going to go up because the cost of construction's going up, and the investors that are building, they're going to have to charge more rent. It's just that. And fortunately, we have this project. It's got about 60 of them coming online, and it should be done. And it's going to be very attractive.
I'm excited.
And
I appreciate your
I-
effort on that.
if it's like Silver Lakes, Monica, all 60 of them will probably be asked for before they're done. And we'll probably have a waiting list behind that. So, and remember, part of that is for young people starting out, you know, like teachers that's always been, BOE has always complained that, you know, there's nothing affordable for them to rent when they come. And, you know, starting teachers, I guess, are still 35, 36,000. I'm not sure if they've gone up, but and firemen and policemen and people that are working in industry. So, and that's been a complaint for a lot of our employers, that their people are driving long distances to come here to work because they can't find anything to rent, and then they get tired of driving, so the turnover in that manufacturing side is pretty high.
Thanks, Ed. And just to say, I think our city really has one of the most effective DDA
Absolutely.
staff than any city in the state of
Absolutely.
Georgia. We
I'm so
appreciate the
grateful
help with that.
This is product that's going to be available.
Absolutely,
So-
right. Thanks, Ed. And that's be at our work session, I guess, in July, just July 2nd, so that being,
Monica's saying she'll have it ready
okay,
for me,
good. Thanks, Monica.
for Dan.
Ms. Robinson, Downtown Main Street Director.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
The committee that the mayor assembled to review town park rental fees met back on April 16th. Committee, through thorough discussion, made the determination that they wanted to adjust the rates to the town park rental fees, where there are new rates, or actually flat rates, for full park use, full park day use, and half park half-day park use, excuse me. And so those rates are reflected on the rental contracts that you all received in your packets. We've already been getting additional questions about town park rentals since the committee met. So there's a couple of things that probably needed to be clarified so that I can answer the public intelligently and not have to always call someone back or ask for further clarification. There's been questions about the residency clarification, whether if they're out of the city of Madison, do they receive the local resident rate? We know that the county doesn't pay into the usage and upkeep of the park, and so there's been question about whether a Morgan County resident should be able to get the same local resident fee as a Madison resident gets. Also, there's a need for clarification if a local business wanted to utilize the park, what type of fee should they be allowed to or permitted to be granted? Are they just like a regular citizen, if they own a business in downtown or operate a business in downtown but are not a local resident? So those are just inquiries that have come since the committee has met, and it'd be great to have some clarification on that. Otherwise, the committee did decide that the wedding rental contract would remain the same so that we would not be in competition with our surrounding venues for the usage of wedding rentals, and the adjusted rates for the standard contract are as presented on the contract in front of you. And I will entertain any questions or discussion.
If someone wanted to rent the park for a wedding and it was rained out, is there a refund to that particular party, or?
There's something in the contract about whether there's refundable damage deposits. There's also information about if we're notified ahead of time that there's a portion that the city would keep in terms of a cancellation fee, but then there is a clause for a refund. And that is in section, let me get that for you. If you have it's on bullet point 5 with if notification is received within 60 days
Okay.
of the date that they're wanting to rent. Yes, sir. And that clause is also included in the standard rental contract as well.
The weather for an outside wedding that's not protected is always a problem. It's always a risk for someone having an event. Typically, if it rains, you can't know what the weather's going to be 60 days out. So the obvious thing is that if you got to prepare for every contingency, and you don't get that. If you got to park, you got to park.
That's
so
correct.
there's not a whole lot of give back.
There's a $1,000 retainer fee that the city will maintain.
And that's pretty much the industry
That's
standard.
the standard.
Yes.
And Karen, I'm not sure because you and I may have talked about this, but
Yes, sir.
on the form, I think it's very well done, but we don't call out, regardless of how we define resident versus non-resident, but we need to add non-resident in there and figure
Yes,
out what the fee is for that, because
That's
we
correct.
don't do that now, whether that's $1,200 or whether it's whatever those numbers need to be, but we need to figure that out.
That's correct.
What 3 hours constitutes minimum 3 hours, max 4 hours? That's a half
For a half day,
Okay.
yes.
So what if you wanted to do 5 hours? Would it be an hourly rate after that?
No, it's flat rate, and it'll just go into the full day usage
Oh,
of
okay.
it. And the committee has given me as the manager some flexibility in terms of if they're needing time for setup, how we look at doing that. We actually have a renter that has already secured the park for the first Saturday in July. And, I'm always kind of leery about people coming in early, setting their items up, leaving their things there. And so there's been some encouragement for them to utilize full day usage so that the park is blocked off completely for their usage and security of them monitoring their items, because we don't want to be liable.
What do you have to be, does a staff person have to be on site? What is the role of, like for you, does this,
Somebody
how does it
has
burden
to
the
be on
city?
site.
Is it you or a volunteer or?
During the event, there has to be a city representative,
Okay.
a paid city representative or event manager, as the contract
Yeah.
states.
Is in defining the definition of the resident, you mentioned that the county makes contributions to town park?
No, they do
County
not.
does
Do
not.
not.
The
That's
county
right, oh,
makes
you
no.
said they do not?
Correct,
Okay,
yes, sir.
and I was kind of wondering, news to me. Does that make any difference then in terms of how we define resident? I mean, it's a city park, it's funded by city taxpayers, I hate to, it just seems like that's who it's for. I mean, are we being cruel and saying resident doesn't necessarily mean anyone other than a city resident?
I just think that's up to the committee to make that determination as to how we'd like to.
Because I don't.
Promote city
Mayor,
services.
At the planning meetings, I don't recall that ever coming up, do you?
It didn't come up. you
Yeah,
know.
we talked about residents, but we didn't really define that.
Right.
Yeah, but I think we mostly focus on city residents instead of, since the county don't pay into the park, and it's the total responsibility of the city to keep that park up. You know, and it may sound cruel to the county residents, you know, but the county just don't pay into the park.
Karen,
Yes.
you and I have had a lot of conversations about this.
Yes, sir.
And the wedding venue with the $4,000, it was specifically laid out so that we would not be in competition with other event centers.
That's correct.
That was a major complaint by those businesses. There's a push today that a lot of the brides want to get married outside, have an outside wedding, but they don't want to have the reception there. So if somebody wanted to get married, David and I have had this conversation, just get married, and they want to reserve the park, you know, for that, and then have their venue somewhere else. That's my question. Like if they wanted the park,
Just for the ceremony.
yeah, just for the ceremony, because they're going to have a reception somewhere else. Because I don't think we're going to get people at $4,000 to rent the park.
As I understand it, and you and I talked about this also, is the $4,000 rate came into play with those large weddings that involve tents and chairs and things of that nature that are going to put in heavy usage on the park, regardless of the length of time for the ceremony. It's the usage and the strain that it places on the park, which is where that rate came from. The committee did decide not to change it, so there's still those individual rates. If they just wanted to come in, use the terrace, use the gazebo, there's still those individual hourly rates that are still in place per the committee's discussion that they could utilize and benefit from. I'm not certain what else, and I found out just yesterday that there's an issue with the irrigation in the grass of the park. So that's an expense now that the city is going to have to incur to fix that, to repair that, to put the park back into looking green and beautiful. And so where does that expense come from? And we're already talking about budget.
That
restraints.
repair's been ongoing, but it was repaired yesterday. I was aware of it. I walked through and saw that the grass was quite parched.
Yes, sir.
It's already coming back. It's good hardy sod down there. There was a main pipe problem that has been fixed. I go back and I think what I've witnessed in Savannah, and perhaps we shouldn't throw weddings, and I hear what Councilmember Latham is talking about. In Savannah, they will allow small wedding parties to use the squares. I know that where we stayed for a long time in Savannah at GMA, there's a square, a small park. All of a sudden, you'd see a few chairs pop up, they'd have a ceremony, and then it'd be gone.
Okay.
So perhaps the committee might reassemble, revisit that, allow staff to make a determination if the ceremony's only during this amount of time, limit the number of guests so that it has, and judge it more on the impact to the park and to the public who can't use it during that time than to what type of event it is. So we might have a small wedding ceremony, more than just I call it a pop-up wedding, where the officiant shows up and the couple shows up and a few witnesses. We allow that with that's a normal thing, no charge,
Absolutely.
Don't even notify us. I mean, I see that on the camera from time to time where a couple will show up and they'll get married in the gazebo.
Yes.
So I think we probably do well to address the non-resident rate and also address the small wedding, and break it down, make it a bit more affordable, charge a lesser fee, limit the number and limit the time. If they just want to have a ceremony outside and move on for the
Yeah,
reception.
And that's really what they want. It's usually limited to a small number of people, but they really don't want, they would like to have the park private for that most of the brides are not going to want skateboarders or anybody else, coming through, and.
But they got to pay for that. What I'm saying is, when
That's
we
what I-
restrict the
that's what I
public
said.
from enjoying that public space,
That's
there's going to be a
correct.
price for that.
I thought we could just stay with a half-day rate at 600 or whatever, and that would bring more income in, and.
Well, it's on here now at private wedding rate, public ceremony, $250, 1 hour maximum,
25 or less attendees, yes, sir.
Okay, so we
It's
can just classify it as that and not lump it into the big wedding.
I would look at 50 or less too, maybe have a private day who's, might have 50 cousins.
You know, there's two city issues that are really like minefields of controversy and problems. That's parking and that's town park rental, and you got them both, Karen. So congratulations.
Well, thank you.
You're doing well dealing with them both, because there really are difficult answers.
Well, we want to utilize the park. It's such a beautiful space, and DDA had initially put all of that work into making that space available, and the city now owns it. It doesn't serve us well to restrict or make it difficult for people to use it, but we do have to be smart as how we finance it and how we maintain it. So
And I think that was Mayor Perriman's thought when he first called the committee together, was to do exactly what you just described. So.
absolutely.
Well, it would be nice to see the park rented on like a half-day, because I really don't believe that there's local residents that are going to pay $900 to have a family event in that, I just don't believe that's going to happen. So I don't think that, I think that if we open it up to where our businesses can, get it for a half a day and stuff like that, I think you'll see more utilization of it, and it'll bring in more income. And yes, we're not trying to make money, but how much does it cost to maintain? What are we costing? How much does it cost to maintain the park annually, David?
Well, I don't know. I'm not drilled down to that. The park is one of 15 that we have citywide. I mean,
Yeah.
and
But
it's,
anyway, any income that we could get in would help us as far as maintaining the park.
I'm happy to go back and take these suggestions and update the contract. Mayor, if you'd like for the committee to
If
read.
the committee can reassemble, talk about this again. I know we can't do it next week, but how about the following week?
Okay.
I get with you, Karen.
Yes, sir.
But the committee members.
One last point, Mr. Mayor. A lot of these weddings at their event centers, some of them are they're coming from out of town. And a lot of them come use our churches too. So they have the wedding somewhere else, get married, then go take the shoes off, drink and dance and do whatever else they do. I had 2 of these, so I understand what they do. And I understand what it costs. And so do you, Mr. Mayor.
I understand, absolutely.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you
Mayor.
so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Karen.
Yes, sir.
IGA Tax Commissioner Services Finance Officer Karen Staff. She get it for you today?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, she gave that to me. This is the intergovernmental agreement for collection of ad valorem taxes between the Morgan County Commissioners, the Tax Commissioner, and the City of Madison. As you know, for many, many years, the tax commissioners collected, they've billed and they've collected and done all collections for city taxes, including all the special tax districts. This is a contract that is with the newly elected tax commissioner, Wendy Coe. There was a tax increase, a price increase, very modest, Originally, the tax commissioner was $2.75 per parcel. The county commissioners got $1.25 for a total of $4 per parcel. The proposed rate is the tax commissioner up to $3 and the county commissioners up to $2 per parcel for a total of $5. So it's only $1 increase, and it's probably been close to 20 years since it's been in effect. And for the money, I'd still say this is the smartest money the city's ever invested annually for doing this. It's to reduce that number of transactions, from not having to collect, and from folks who don't pay. The tax commissioner does that's much more efficient. But just to give you an idea, because you don't know how much we're paying unless you know how many parcels. Right now, there are 2,510 parcels across the city. So that's what this is based on. So right now, it's going to be 1,200 something bucks. Excuse me?
1,200 or 12,000?
No, it's 2,510 parcels in the city.
Right.
Countywide, of course, it's a lot more. This is the numbers that Karen gave me. But I'll answer any questions you have.
The only difference then is just those dollar differences that you.
Yes, and the name of the tax commissioner. And it was drawn up to the county manager sign. The county manager may sign on behalf of the county, and that's fine, but we've changed on the city side to the mayor, because the mayor should execute contracts and agreements on behalf of the mayor and council in the city.
So in simple language, you're basically paying a small fee for the county to collect our share of the ad valorem.
To bill and
property.
collect, the parcels in the city, the county, school, city tax, special tax, all that comes on one bill. They pay it at one time, and the county writes us a check, and they do a fantastic job, and we can't thank them enough.
You're comfortable, David, with the increase?
I am very much comfortable, yes. Not a problem at all.
Takes a load off the city, right?
Yes, sir. Very efficient. You know, and you may have heard some news occasionally, this model doesn't work as well in the larger counties. So there may be legislation going through the state, and I've expressed to GMA when it came up in the past is whatever you do to hammer the Fultons and DeKalbs and the Gwinnett's or whatever. I'm not sure what they do. I'm not sure if Gwinnett has a problem, but I know Fulton, it's been in the news because their tax commissioner, based on collections for the cities, it's not a few $1,000s, it's a few $100,000 that he adds. And the tax commissioner this is their personal money. And some legislators see this as a flaw in the law or a loophole that is kind of old-fashioned way of doing things. So we need to make sure that we're retain the ability to negotiate with the county and or the tax commissioner in the future. So we need to be watching for any legislation, make sure it doesn't affect what we do. Maybe it will be based on the size or the amount of money or whatever, but this is very fair, and it's worked very well, and we want to keep it going.
David, it's $5 per parcel?
$5 per parcel, yes.
In the city?
In the city, yes.
And there's 2,500?
And it's 2,510 parcels from what Karen says.
So that's around $12,000?
$12,000, that's right, that's right. So it was about $10,000 before, so it's a modest increase and fair increase.
Thank you, David. If we can get a nod to get this approved on our consent agenda.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, council members. Resolution of surplus property, David.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, these are all old computer computers. The only thing is that we will modify this because these computers hard drives have been destroyed. These have no value, so they will not be sold. I know that the resolution says that they'll be sold, and Karen caught that. But this will be, whether we strike it and write it in, or whether we change the text. I don't want to make any. Want to say anything. They have no value whatsoever.
Even to Bob?
Excuse me? Even to Bob. Yeah, Bob can do much better and does much better. But no, these Karen is very, if anything is on our, if there's anything on our list of assets, she doesn't get rid of it unless she comes to the council, no matter if it has value or not. So, she, just wanted to make sure you knew that these have no value. We're just taking them off the asset list, and if you approve this at the council meeting.
What about the printer, Dave? I believe that's a printer, the Office Jet Pro?
It's, if she put it on here, it's been wigged out. It's in a pile somewhere.
Yeah, that particular model has problems anyway.
So if we could get a nod from the council, put this on our consent agenda for approval. Thank you so much, council members.
And you all know the life of a desktop computer, usually it says about 3 years. We usually squeeze a good bit more out of our desktop computers. We may be changing monitors from time to time and may have to upgrade things, but our IT vendor does a good job of keeping everything up to date and keeping desktops where we can, and we've done mainframe and main computer upgrades recently, which we do from time to time as well. But our system is working well right now.
Thank you, David.
Thank you.
Contract EPDC grant extension planner Bryce Jack.
I think I'm handling that as well. That is a small grant that was in place for GIS mapping, and we are getting ready. We should be closing that out very, very soon, but we just need a little bit more time to get that closed out, because we are, as we speak, spending money. We've completed the mapping on the water system, and now the vendor is working on the mapping on the wastewater system. So this is just an extension to give us more time to get that closed out.
David, on the first page there, it says the grant amount is 20, match amount is 0, cash amount is 20. Okay, I got you. We got that. That's our cash. Right?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
That's what I saw.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. And we were well in excess of that already.
So on number 8, the project budget, I think it's page 21 of the attachment. It says the grant funds are 60% maximum with our need to do 40, but we've decided to do a 50-50 split. Why is that when it looks like it could have been 60-40?
Well, we could have called it out at 60-40, but it was because we're already spending way more than that anyway, so this is just the way it was put in. It doesn't, we're spending well in excess of $20,000 match anyway.
But wouldn't it, I don't understand that. If it's a 60-40 split, are they spending more money and we're less?
No, it's the max they were gonna give us either way was $20,000.
Oh, okay, I got it.
So we couldn't have said 20 and they go up to 30. It didn't work that way. This was found money by Bryce. I mean, he did a good job because we were looking at doing mapping anyway, and this was money that we could get to help with that. So again, we're spending well in excess of the $20,000 cash match. This is just the way that the paperwork needed to be done for this grant.
And I know the GIS mapping plan goes back a long way, so I assume this 20 is part of the current budget? Fiscal 2021?
Yes. It may still reach over into the 2022 budget, because I don't know that we'll be done with the wastewater mapping before the end of this fiscal year. We should be well on our way, and then the only planned mapping that we'll do after that is natural gas.
Thank you, David.
Thank you.
We can get a nod to get this approved on our consent agenda. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Noy. Airport runway.
Hey, we have a construction agreement between the city and Wall Asphalt Services. They are Georgia company. They are out of Franklin, Georgia. This was a competitive bid. It's been a little bit on the back burner because we're waiting on the FAA contract to get done, and we've approved that. This is a 90% reimbursement for this project, and this is restriping, remarking the runway out at the airport. And the project, I know it was 22,000, looking for the dollar amount. I don't know why they hide it so well. It's, excuse me just a minute. It's less than 25,000, between 20 and $25,000. I don't know why I can't find the.
Well, I just wish they'd put that up front right there.
Yeah,
You
it
can
should
see
be right up after the,
Right up
the
that
name of the
company.
company.
Yeah, I saw it somewhere earlier. Now I can't find it either.
But this contract was done by, and I'm not sure, Mr. City Attorney, if I've forwarded this to you, but I will certainly, if it hasn't been, then I will forward it to you. It's very similar to our construction agreement that we use. It probably has a little bit more language in it.
I've looked at it, it looks familiar. I think that you sent it to me and I approved it. But I've looked at it while I'm here.
Oh, okay.
Standard stock government contract.
But is there, did you find a dollar amount in there, Jim? I thought I did, but I'm not seeing it now.
Well, if you want to leave it on the regular agenda, just as a matter of semantics, then I'll make sure I apologize for being unprepared because I was sure it was in here.
I thought it
But it
was
is
too.
less than $25,000.
That 25, that's what the city has to pay?
That is what is the total contract, but we already have applied for, and you all have approved the DOT or the DOT contract to get this money back.
Right.
We'll just get it as soon as it's expended. And DOT is in a hurry to get this money spent because some of our allocation goes back to 2017, and they want this money spent because it's federal money coming down to the state and then coming to us. So this is,
So basically, we'd be looking at 18,000?
yes, thereabouts. That, yes,
Okay.
yes, that's right.
Yeah,
And then remarking is something that we've needed to do for quite some time. Matter of fact, I was trying to get a third party to do it, but this is a much more comprehensive remark, so it'll brighten up the runway and make it comply with our safety in our last inspection.
The price is in the bid request forms, and that's not in the contract. It just
Yeah.
refers to it and incorporates the bid request form.
Okay.
Cost of the work has been established by unit prices and the bid amount submitted by the contractor, so. that's
So it
a
doesn't
separate-
call it out in here.
So,
Okay.
so that was whatever the winning bid was that they made?
Right.
That's right.
Do we know exactly what that number is? Hate to be a stickler here, but
I'll let me try to find it right quick. But
is that normal to have the bid amount
Yeah,
not in the actual body of the
yeah, this is a
contract?
government form,
Right.
so they just incorporate the bid request form. Of course, all the bond requirements, the statutory payment bond, everything is attached to this.
Do you know?
There would be correspondence in the city file showing
Do
what
you
the
know,
amount
the
is.
city posted less than 25,000, Mr. Manager, do you know that?
what's that, Mr. Mayor?
Posted is less than
Oh, yeah, the city portion is going to be, if it's 22,000, it'll be 19 and a half, something like that. I mean, no, it'll be a couple of $1,000s will be the city portion, because this is a 90% federal, project.
So if we can get approval from my council member to put this on our consent agenda?
And by that time, we'll have that amount.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, I'll have it in just a minute.
I'm okay with that.
good deal. Okay. Thank you, council members. Mr. Norton, to you again, cost of living increase.
Okay, let me get back. Did the same calculation as typical, Mr. Mayor, for 12 months previous year, or 12 months previous versus the 12 months previous to that, and did a calculation, and the CPI for the, let's see, this is the, I need to make sure that this is correct. But it's 1.18%. There's one thing I'm seeing here that I need to check on again. I typically do the southeastern region, and this looks like it is U.S. city average, and I need to check that. It's going to be, based on what I've seen, it's going to be in the 1% range. I don't see that it's going to be much more than that, but I do need to check on that number. I wish you would hold that out to the main agenda, because I want to check that number.
When I see that 1.18%, that makes abundant sense to me. When I see the numbers above it in that graph, what the heck is that? I don't get that at all. Like January 2011, for example, 220.223. What is that number referencing?
I cannot tell that. I cannot explain that. That is a moving number that statisticians come up with. There's a lot of stuff that goes into that. I know that that number is ever increased. Well, one year it actually went down a little bit, but most of the time it eases up 1 or 2%. But that number and what it represents,
It'll mystery to all of us.
I can't explain that. It's just what
I'm glad
we've
it's not
done.
just me.
It's a way.
It's a CPI value. But I will verify that this is from the correct, from the correct chart, because I had a little trouble finding. They have so much on the Bureau of Labor Statistics. They have so many charts and so much data that it seems like it's harder and harder to find this, and I want to make sure that I've got the right one. And we had some questions when I discussed with some supervisors about 1.18, and since you're looking at 12 months, previous to 12 months most recent, and you compare the two, which is a fair comparison, what is your dollar doing, what is your dollar worth between one year and the next? Everybody's hearing about gas prices going up this month or last month. Well, that's blended into everything. That's an immediate impact, but we're trying to get an average. We're trying to average that out. We can't base a year's or your whole salary chart on what cost of living did 1 month or 2 months or
What
one
you
quarter.
think it might do.
Or what you think it might do. That's
This is
right.
what we've done for the last 20-plus years that I've
Yes.
been here.
Yes.
And the effort is just to keep folks being able to have the same
Exactly.
buying power as they did the previous year.
Exactly. But I'll make sure the chart's correct. If not, I'll correct it and bring back a different number, but I want to make sure that, so I just saw that, and I want to make sure that's correct.
We've got to be on our next meeting.
Yes, leave it on the regular agenda.
Okay, thank you, sir. Now, Mr. Manager, your report.
Mr. Mayor, I'll move out front. I'm not going to. Sorry, I did a lot of talking from behind y'all. I did a written report about the middle or thereabouts of May, so there's not a lot of changes. I will say that the airport you know, there were condemnations done for 3 parcels, one 40-acre plus from the Jackson Trust, and then 2 others from families, or very small parcels, a ½ acre, maybe a little bit more on one and the other. But the attorneys for the Jackson Family Trust has filed paperwork to ask the judge to set aside that condemnation. And essentially what that means is they're alleging that the negotiation was not done in good faith, that the procedure was wrong. So it's kind of like, you know, throwing it against the wall and see what sticks. And I don't know if that's a correct representation, but
It is. It's extremely difficult to stop a condemnation on bad faith. They're
yeah,
really
and
tough.
we've been negotiating, and you all was sent the negotiation record, the book, on how many times people were contacted and how many times, and the city and the appraisers have tried to get access to the property. It was difficult. And also the fact that there are no dwellings, there are no improvements on the property is not difficult to ascertain value without ever setting foot on the property. I mean, it's just a U-shaped piece of property around the airport. You can pretty much get a sense of all of it from
Right.
walking on city property.
You can
So-
do that on a mass appraisal basis. That's a proper technique. We do that all the time. It's the standard taxation approach. Nobody goes out there and walks over every piece of property when we adjust the tax digest.
But we've got, there will be hearings on the motion to set it aside. I'll be involved, the appraiser, the engineer, the person with the company that's doing the actual negotiations and acquisition, and the attorney that's working with us. But I'll keep you up to date on that.
Does Attorney Carter represent the city in
No.
that hearing?
No, no.
I only come when they call me and carry somebody's briefcase.
This attorney, the firm is out of Gainesville. They're kind of a boutique
Right. Yeah,
outfit.
that's-
They're very good at what they do. They
Right.
do
This is
handle a
their
lot of
specialty.
DOT condemnations, and they've been very good to work with and very fair. And I think been very fair to, as you remember, the appraisal on this property went up by 50%, up to from 400 and something thousand for 40 acres to 600 and something thousand. So I've been living here a long time, and I kind of have an idea about what land is worth, and I know that the proximity to the city and the airport and things have impact and have an effect on the value, but I just can't see how the city or through its representatives have been unfair. That's just me talking.
I think it has a very
Judge will come
limited
down
use.
on that.
Yeah, unless you wanted a business that actually wanted access to the airport itself, who would want this property?
And I think the rationale was by splitting it, it diminished the value of the whole property, not
Right.
just
Consequential
40
damages,
acres.
yeah.
And I think they've addressed that through the last increase. I didn't do an update on it, but LMIG, the resurfacing for the 10 streets, many of those are small, very short segments of streets. Turner Drive, Gilmore Lane, Hughes Circle, Skyline, East Skyline, West Skyline. So there are 10 streets, but some of them are very short. That bid is going to go out to paving contractors, hopefully within the next couple of weeks. We are including some crack sealing at the airport in that, so we can get that done at the same time. And just a bit of an update on that. Let's see. Still waiting on City Hall. The architect is assuring me that they're almost done, and hopefully we'll be able to put that out pretty quickly. I am pushing them to get us the final package so that we can get that out.
Is that Joe Smith?
Yes. Yes. We received at least 6 truckloads of pipe for the gas expansion. That's coming in now. It's up to us to get that pipe in the ground. We've got equipment, both purchased and leased, to do that, and we've hired up to do a lot of that. We're still working on some engineering, but we're gonna start putting pipe in the ground within the next couple of week or so. They're anxious to get out there and get started. They're already making adjustments. They've discovered they need something to haul a lot more water because the machine we have leased to pull this big pipe uses a lot more water than our other machines, so they're making changes to that. So I want to give a regular update, maybe show on a map where we are and what we're doing. I'm anxious is the wrong word, but I'm excited about it. I want to get it tied into our gas line at Atlanta Highway. That way, when we get pipe installed, we can put a valve in and put gas on that first section and actually offer that to whoever's along the pipe. So we won't have to wait till the whole thing's done to get into the business in that area. So, and our farmers that we've committed to along the way and up in the Bostwick High Shoals area, they're very excited. They're going to save money from the get-go. They're anxious to start doing business with us. I'll answer any questions.
Are we having another budget work session, or when is that going? We're not, so we're just going straight to the budget hearing? I wanted to ask Karen maybe and David to find the Vitality Project. Did that hit last year's?
I'd have to look at the individual
Because that's a
numbers.
big, I was thinking about all the things that might have been added to the rolls, and sometimes it will hit next year versus this year, and I didn't know if that has been fully assessed and where that lands.
I would think that a lot of it would have been because
Yeah.
weren't they leasing, didn't have most of it done by January 1?
I think so, but you know how they value it.
No, they value it based on what's there on
and when
January 1.
on January 1. So
Mhm.
yeah.
A good bit of that should be there.
I think that we're missing some of the things that, like Ed said, the things that have been added to the tax rolls, and I know that we have this one number, but I'm wondering if we'll actually collect more than we think we will, based on that. I don't know.
We're trying to base things on what they have told us is an estimation, an educated and experienced estimation of what that digest is going to do from the additions. I don't know that there are a lot of reappraisals. I don't know that they're chasing all these, fantastic sales of people asking, 20, 30, 40% more than their property's worth.
And this next year is going to be even higher, I would imagine. And also, I think we talked about maybe looking at the downtown, the business, the millage. And I know that has nothing to do with the budget, but I know we were going to talk about it again. The
special tax district.
Yeah, the special tax districts in our history since I've been here, we've been.
You pretty much left those alone.
Yep. So if there's an opportunity to look at those versus directly going to the residents. But I don't know what conversation or when that would happen. Mr. Mayor, do you know, would that be at the budget hearing or at the millage rate hearing, I guess in July, right?
We could probably talk about it administratively.
Okay.
Well, in the budget hearing, if you want to generate more and if you want to raise the amount that you assess the downtown special tax district or the 441 business corridor special tax district, then again, if you say you want to collect more, then what is that amount? And then at the time to set the millage rate, then you'll set the millage rate to generate that amount of money. It's difficult for us, and we can allocate cost for downtown because we know how much effort we put into it.
We put a lot of effort in them, and I think there's been a lot of benefit.
Yes.
And I don't think, instead of going straight to the residents, maybe looking at some of the areas that have been flat for the last 8 years. I don't know how you guys feel about it, but.
Well, I think also that the downtown businesses in turn generate sales tax and revenue as well. So, there's two sides to that.
There are, but most of the people that are the generators don't own the actual real estate, right?
Well, the downtown and especially in the 441, remember there are two components to that. One is an addition onto the occupation tax,
Yeah.
which is what the business owner pays. And the other is the millage. So special tax revenues are generated from two different sources.
That's right.
And, we'll have to review how they are broken down and what's generated. So you can affect that a couple of different ways, but, how much are you trying to generate? What kind of balance are you trying to strike?
Yeah, I think
But those are fairly modest,
it won't be
amounts
that
of money.
much, I know.
No.
So it's not
So
like they're
It should
getting.
be treated less as tax relief for everyone else and more about if you're truly putting effort and you're trying to allocate costs for effort downtown and true benefit, then sure, and then try to generate more money from those sources.
And I'm not saying that, I'm just saying, can we perhaps look at that instead of going straight to residents every, for extra income?
Now, would that be a discussion for the July?
I don't know,
millage rate
that's
hearing?
the question I'm asking. I don't know. Because if we adopt this budget, then
I think
we need to look at the streams of where it's gonna come from.
I would suggest that you look at first how much is generated from it and whether you want to.
That's all I'm asking is
And then
for
the
us to.
millage rate
Yeah.
will be a calculation based on, if you leave it alone, then you'll just take the rollback and those numbers won't change much.
I probably don't need to remind the council, but I'm somewhat bothered by the renovation of the city hall, because we continue to pay rent for an alternative city hall, and we don't even have an RFP out there because we're waiting on architectural drawings. I mean, the longer we wait for the drawings, the longer we wait for RFP. We continue to pay, I believe, $2,800 a month at a time when we're trying to save pennies here. And what can we do to move that process forward? It just bothers me personally.
I'm personally bothered too.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
On Vitality, I think and imagine that they're going to use the income approach instead of the value of the assets, basically because they haven't generated that much income on that project, so they're going to be taxed probably on income from the property, very much like Silver Lakes, very much like the Canaan Crossing.
I'm not familiar with that. So this tax assessor values stuff on income versus actual improvements?
Yeah, they have the option, commercial or anything like that, have the option of going on the basis of.
Is that a property owner's choice?
Well,
No, it's just that.
No, it's not, no.
So it's just, so would that mean that there's a chance that it would actually be more based on income, or, I mean, if they're not?
Well, initially, it's going to be less because they're not rented.
Yeah.
So I don't know how many of them out there.
How do we find that out? I mean, is that a question that?
I can't remember because when I was in the assessor's office, I know that there's the market approach and there's the income approach, but I can't remember if they take if the occupancy has any consideration. I mean, is it about the potential of the income, or is it about what they actually do?
It's about what they actually do.
Because I don't remember ever getting any revenue numbers from anybody doing the income approach. It was based on average rents and whether it was rented or not. But I don't know, I haven't been there.
It is based on the rent, but if they're not getting rent money, and they can take that as an alternative. And a lot of our businesses have done that downtown when the market totally dropped off and, their income was, So that's an option, and because of the pandemic, a lot of them statewide, a lot of those are looking at what their income was during that period. So I'm pretty sure they're going to be doing the same thing out there.
I'm not familiar with that. Well, when we talk about special tax districts, are the Michael Way, the multifamily properties in that?
No.
And should they be considered
No.
in a
No.
different district? Are they just taxed similar to residential, so? Okay. But there's no, what's the Catholic one, the one that's the,
Mercy House?
do they get any
Orchard
tax,
Grove?
any of those get tax abatements or any kind of,
No.
they're taxed
Not
at
that I know
full?
of, no.
Okay.
I'm not aware of anything.
Thank you. I have no question for David. Just a quick question for David and Eric. Do we get any complaints besides this one individual on East Jefferson Street that complains about traffic? I do know that there are 2 speed breaks on East Jefferson Street. Is she the only one that's complaining, or do you get other complaints, Mr. Manager? We don't.
She's rather vocal, that resident's very vocal. On the other side of the coin, I did get a nice comment from a property owner farther down the street that, for the things we did do. And in my response to her letter, if you read that, I did mention the many things we've done on East Avenue already. You know, but I tried to walk the fine line between defending the city and saying we will do what we could. And David, I thought, had a good response and sent it to the chief to put another meter reading device down there. I don't get other complaints from other residents. One of her neighbors, by the way, is a city employee, Christina, I believe, over at City Hall. I believe she lives 2 doors down from that complainant's house there on East Jefferson. And
There may be, when we put those, we've put the prefabricated, because they're much quicker to go in and we have an immediate impact. We're planning on doing those, one in Hugh Circle and on Bernie Street and Map Street, if we've not already done it. We're going to get those installed. They almost always have an immediate impact because people don't like to go over those very fast. They're rough, but you can't control the occasional person who will just go over at 50 miles an hour, and that's what the Metro counter will tell us. And we can look, because Jefferson was fast. It was when the street got paved, they were enjoying that strip, and it's cut through. It's a main thoroughfare from downtown to that neighborhood. So the count should tell us something about the speed and whether that was effective.
And there's, that end of East Jefferson, Mr. Mayor, there's 4 houses on that end. And this particular citizen in my district wants the speed bump
right
for her house. Well, then should we put one at each of the 4 houses? I mean, so.
Well, David, the counters on Main Street, have you seen it? I haven't heard from people, but I think they're working.
I think that is great.
Yeah, not the counters, but the
one down at the south end.
Too slow.
I'm not sure. Some of it may be up here. It's what we can do.
Well, it reminds me, and oftentimes I'm 40 versus 35, and I slow down.
Well, we got one on 441, the main entrance is Main Street coming in from the north and the south, and we've got one on 83 coming from the north. So we're trying to break the speed down coming into downtown.
I think they help. I don't know if it's.
I hope so.
I've noticed my own reaction to them. So.
I have one quick question for David, please. David, whenever you confirm on the cost of living increase that whatever the correct number for the southeast that we've always used is, could you ask Karen to extrapolate that? I think it's pertinent in the budgeting conversations to what that 1.18 or whatever it ends up being will do to the total payroll and as a dollar wise.
If we're $3.5 million annually just on salary, then 1% is going to be $35,000.
Yeah.
I mean, but we'll come up with that number. Yes, sure.
Thank you. Thank you, David.
Just, you saw a lot of activity. I didn't say anything about Hill Park, the tennis courts. They milled up, took the fences down, milled up, tried to roll test it, compacted the material, and had some soft spots that, and we knew that Hill Park tennis courts were kind of sinking and moving for a long time. But we had a change order of about $29,000 or so. The county's change at College Drive is about $100,000 and a $400,000 project. Ours is about $30,000 and a $200,000 project. So that's a little more than 10%. But they've since put rock down. They're watering it, packing it in. Hopefully the next roll test will be back. And they've put material, fabric down to help tighten it up. So we should have a first class, up to date, well, tennis and pickleball.
Is it 2 and 2? Is that the?
I don't know what the configuration is yet. We'll have to, before we lay it all out.
Change them out somehow.
I think they're supposed to be interchangeable. I think
Oh,
they
really?
think they're supposed to be flexible. So we will not do all of them both, but probably 1/4, half the courts.
If you could look at, I mean, I don't know if this is on next year or whenever on the wish list, but I was over at Wellington Park yesterday, the basketball courts, I think they need to be resurfaced as well at some point, or looked at, or they're
We'll take
kind
a
of
look at that.
pitiful looking.
If they, I know that the poles need to be scraped and painted. I mean, there are a lot of cosmetic
Yeah.
things that we need to do in the nets. I got your message about that. And I'm not sure what the surface is. It may be concrete, so it just may need to be cleaned and
Yeah,
remarked.
probably. I don't, it's above my head.
Good. Thank you, Chris. Thanks, David.
Thank you.
Sure. Any council members plan to go to GMA?
Nicholson? Yeah, I'm gonna go. I answered David, he offered to do rides up there. It's Wednesday, next Wednesday, 4 o'clock, I believe. I have an appointment, so I'll be driving myself, but if,
That's the 5th district.
yeah, and I think a lot of you said you,
I couldn't go.
yeah, I think I saw a couple of those, but I intend to be there, and I know David does.
How about the GMA convention in Savannah? You will let Ashley know.
I'm going.
You going? You going? You going? Maybe.
Probably,
Okay.
probably.
Just
But
so
we need to get with Ashley. right?
Well,
Well,
just so you know, registration
Tuesday.
is Tuesday morning. Those
Yeah.
spots, if you want to take classes, fill up within 30 minutes, sometimes 10 if it's in
And
a popular
sometimes the
class.
hotels, too.
If you want to stay at the hotel, I have to have that information. I need it before
Tuesday at
Tuesday.
9 or 8 in the morning is when you start signing up, and
8, I think
8 in the
it's,
morning?
or 9. I do think it's 9 because we have a little bit of
So you would need to
time.
know by,
This afternoon or Monday by noon at the absolute latest.
and I believe
Monday
there's
by noon.
the email we got has the, well, plus, where did I just see it? Anyway, there's a website to find the class.
Yes, and I also printed out a
Yeah.
copy of the registration packet for
Yeah,
you.
so you can look that over. You want to probably have first and second choice?
I need 3.
3?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they fill up that fast.
Is that in here?
Well, just go see.
I'll go over with you.
Yeah, just go see.
Because I gotta get it done today, because I'm gonna be out of town next week.
Okay.
Okay. We got a call meeting. Mr. Carter, you want to say something?
Yeah, I was just gonna, this matter that we mentioned, is it's appropriate now, you want
Yes,
to wait?
sir, I think it is.
Okay. Francisco down at Town 220 has really been targeted by some lady that lives out on Pierce's Dairy Road. And she has just been on his case as a sorry Mexican that has, lives in a house with rats and 12 people in a nasty restaurant and all that kind of stuff. And most recently, she posted on TripAdvisor this post, and she did it in the Kat Cheney is a civil rights advocate from Chicago. This was posted in Kat's name, and here's how it reads. I place to go when I'm wearing my finest robes. Klan robe, that is. My friends and I dress for our finest Klan robes and visit this establishment when we feel like rubbing elbows with other like-minded people. The duck is dry, overpriced, sloppy, and overcooked, but at least it's run by good old boys who feel supremacy in our common skin tone. Go here if you want to feel the exquisite ambience of antebellum South. I don't know what this lady has got for, why she's got it in for Francisco, but Francisco's done everything he can to try to make peace with this woman, and she just won't quit. She'd moved in here from Texas, I think. She lives out, I don't even know her name, but her attorney just mentioned that, hey, this thing looks like it might disparage the city, and asked me if, and the mayor says, and David said, we're not gonna put it on the agenda, but if you wanna pass the request along, or whatever, it's okay. I'm not advocating anything. I'm just simply saying.
Her attorney asked. Okay.
Francisco's attorney.
Oh, I was about to say, okay.
Chuck Dorr.
Chuck Dorr asked
Yeah.
us.
Chuck just says he thought this was a disparagement on the city and asked me if I would just read this to the city to see if the city wanted to make any kind of response whatsoever.
So it sounds like some cyberbullying, I mean, essentially.
Well, it's not so much that, it's just whether the city considers this type of comment, meaning that the city tolerates this kind of stuff, that the city tolerates Klan activities, and that this is the kind of thing that goes on in the city. And whether or not the city wants to respond is entirely.
Well, it's interesting, I think there's the case before the Supreme Court right now about online reviews and who's where your First Amendment right stands versus a government, and if you can make disparaging remarks about your government, it's protected. So I don't know that we can jump into this fight. I mean, I think we can say that we don't stand.
It's not a legal issue on whether it's simply a preference on whether, he says, did he talk to you, Bob? Convention, he believes that this affects our tourism and affects the city, reflects adversely on the city. But the question is a very simple one. Does the city want to publish any kind of thing in response to it or whatever?
Our city don't condone this.
I think without knowing a little bit more, it's hard to.
But we can't pretend the rest are run out.
Yeah.
Right, and that's all I'm doing. I just passed this along for you.
And I will say that Chuck's been kind of successful at encouraging people to write in reviews. I've noticed since that one, there's been 4 or 5 reviews mentioning the duck, which was involved in her first thing. So they're all saying, "Oh, the duck is great." Anyway, that crappy one is moving down the list of reviews, so it's harder to find. Instead of being the most recent one, it's now about
Maybe
number
we
6.
can all do that personally and maybe ask our Main Street director. I don't know how you feel about saying we love this business.
Anybody's got a right to post a response.
That's the problem with social media. I'm not sure we have a city solution. It's outrageous, and it does kind of besmirch all of us, but I'm not sure what we can really do.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
It might be hard if we said we don't condone this, because it might imply that we know what's going on from that fashion. So
I just can't see an upside to commenting on it.
No, I think the more energy you throw
You
at it,
wade into it.
we'll
And
get
for
people.
all the other businesses, I don't look at reviews for different bit, whether they're clothing stores or restaurants or grocery
We
stores.
do, when you
or-
travel, people look at it.
Well, I mean, no, I'm
Yeah.
just saying, I don't look at the ones from Madison. I don't know whether they're on Google or TripAdvisor, so if we come to the defense of one, whether it's legitimate or not, then just because, and I'm not saying, Chuck's being a very effective counsel for his client, and that's what he needs to be, but just because the city's made aware of a poor review, that doesn't mean the city has a reason to wade into it.
And Chuck did post a fairly long 4-paragraph rebuttal. It's in the TripAdvisor site there, right next to the original one, kind of rebutting all of it, so.
Well, I would assume that he is looking at defending his client pretty heavily, I would imagine. I don't know. This is a new one.
That's news media for you. That's Facebook. Anyway, thank you, Mr. Carter. We have a call meeting.
Mr. Mayor, I had just one more thing if I could. I had sent out a letter that hopefully you all had a chance to read. This was a suggestion from my neighbor, Rich Wall, that felt as you've seen from a couple of emails we got from citizens questioning our decision to cancel the Memorial Day event, and a lot of political implications it seemed like. So he made the suggestion that maybe we could do something to make sure we express our interest in getting that event back. I think that was the goal of my letter. I don't know if you want to.
Well, I read your letter, and I had talked with the organizer of the motorcycle group on Tuesday. He called me because there was some comments he said on Facebook.
Yeah, that's.
But he told me that he didn't condone those comments, you know. But he did tell me, and he assured me that they are looking forward to Memorial Day on next year. And I told him that the city is looking forward to having him to come to our city.
Was that Jim Nesmith you were speaking
It
with?
wasn't Jim,
Somebody
it was
else?
the organizer of the motorcycle riders itself.
Yeah, I wasn't sure who I was even referring
Yeah.
to when I wrote
But
that.
anyway, they will be in Madison next year for Memorial Day.
So you-
event. So
so-
I don't think we need.
So we don't need to do anything, okay?
We don't.
All right, thank you.
We already have it on that calendar. Matter of fact, he's going to be in Madison for 9/11. Not the motorcycle ride, but he's going to be in Madison 9/11. You know.
Well, I've already spoken to Jim Neesmith about the 9/11, because it's the 20th anniversary of 9/11, and he said that whether it was him or another group or the American Legion wanted to do a ceremony and I said, absolutely. I mean, the park is there for that, and we'll work with you. Hopefully, everything is much better now and will be much better in September, and we'll have a respectful remembrance of that sad time.
For what it's worth, Eric, not knowing that the mayor had already spoken with the organizer and that David's conversations with Mr. Neesmith, I think it doesn't need to be done now, but I was all in favor of doing that, because I think the message that was implied or sent by some people was that, you know, there was some bias from the council against that, and that wasn't the case, even though some of us had different opinions on it. But anyway, I'm glad that you've spoken. I think his name is Stan.
Stan, yeah.
Yeah, and glad they're coming back.
Well, and the policy is that town park's opening June 1st. I mean, wasn't that it? I mean, it was a blanket, July 1st.
July 1
So,
is
I mean,
the kind of the
it wasn't a personal thing. Yeah,
unofficial
it's just-
opening, but when the decision was made, you know, a month and a half, 2 months ago about this, the state and the nation was in a different place with regard to COVID.
Yeah, so it's not
So we don't have
personal.
didn't have the luxury of looking forward and saying that by doing this, that you would not have contributed to, and I don't even know that we would at that time have complied with the state's own mandates as
That's
far
right.
as gathering. So
That's right.
I don't, you know, I understand how feelings got hurt. I know that I responded to a couple of emails, and I did the best way I could, but the further politicization of the issue, and with one had, you know, anyway, I won't belabor that, but city's always been cooperative with that event, and
For how many years?
should be.
Yeah.
I mean-
This was just a public health issue. It wasn't a personal.
And Stan didn't have any animosity
He
against
knew-
the
he
city.
understood it.
He
Right.
understood, so.
That's awesome.
he's-
Well, I attended the 20-minute rumble through the city of Bostwick, so I know that there was if the city did not choose to do it one year, then my little small town was the beneficiary of a ride-through. We don't have enough cotton fields up there to park all those bikes, so they rode through and had a good ceremony, and I thought, you know, every now and then Rutledge should benefit from Memorial Day, or Buckhead, or Bostwick, or whatever, so it turned out to be positive for a lot of people. I enjoyed it up there.
Typically, Rutledge.
They do their own thing, don't they?
Well, no, they got it this year also, because they went to Rutledge and then to Boston.
That's right, it came through Rutledge, that's exactly,
And normally, they come through Rutledge into Madison.
that's right,
So,
that's right.
I was in Rutledge, and boy, it was a big turnout, and it was great to see all those men and women ride through and all the support from the public. So.
Well, we have a call meeting scheduled next, so if you want to take a quick break, we'll come back and talk about mass for just 5 minutes.
are we going to adjourn from the work session?
We don't have to adjourn from the work session. I don't
Okay.
think. It's just a work session.
Just wanted to make sure.
If there's any coffee.
Apologize for having these numbers right out of pocket.
There is more coffee.
I hope
I made a second, and I drank half of it already.
Stay for a week. Vendors that you use, take them to Charleston.
Thank you, Ms. Mayor.
I know, right?
No, perfect. Just want to follow protocol, that's all. Thank you.
I think there's half an hour, maybe a little.
Oh, in the conference, I mean, in the break room?
Most of us would be okay with not.
Thank you, sir.
Melissa's asked about it, Bryce has asked about it, Monica and I mean, I think almost everybody's vaccinated, but, and we have the glass.
Well, how about people just come in, so,
See, they're behind the glass, so.
so you're blind.
Yeah, and then if we meet with 2 or 3 people, a lot of times we'll bring them over here so we can sit pretty far apart.
That's all. Canvas view. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Yes, sir. I am, before the break, registered earlier, so,
Are you guys going to Savannah, Tim?
Yeah, we haven't talked about it.
Probably high.
It's possible, I was just thinking it's possible that just Monica will go.
What time is it?
Our dogs stick with it.
No.
Or if anybody would take care of her.
These days, actually, I've been bringing them on lunch.
Yeah. That's Chris called what's called.
I think that's good.
I didn't realize you had a dog until a year or 2 ago. I saw it on the front porch.
Well, see, she used to come up the back stairs, but she didn't. So,
One other thing.
Front
real quick,
stoop with 2
I
steps.
what y'all getting ready to talk about. I did a big survey yesterday morning of the industries and where they are on masks. We got 2 of them that still require masks, and that's Anthony and Bard Manufacturing. But Bard asked the question, many says that you're vaccinated. JR, mask adoption. Encourage everybody to get vaccinated.
That is on Pierce's Day Road. I'll have to look it up, but I don't remember.
She's the shiny. If it's Tennessee.
I thought she was from Texas, maybe.
But they're real cautious. They're saying it's volunteer.
I've run into her before. She is,
Have to.
it's the shiny.
I know y'all are struggling with what to do, how to do it, when to go.
Yes, I mean, they're just.
Well,
and her
so I'm
thing
scary.
is, they're crazy, they drive around in this van, never and they collect, the house is like, we moved y'all. I just like,
She can't know y'all.
I think that's what it is, that's why it's crazy.
It's unshared. She shared his.
The only thing you can do.
I guess he must have colors. I just went and made a little comment. You gave me a like.
It releases the light.
Well, they're just.
Whatever. Thank you, sir. We'll get it someone one way or the other.
I think.
I hated the bucket.
Ken, where did y'all stay at GA?
The last time you were in one of the big tall ones.
Yeah. Look.
Basically, put it in your mouth.
Are you going to Scott?
Holiday Express and J Street. only a block.
I remember we did Lydia out there, that's where
Their house, if you get that size, I mean, you're like 20 stories.
Oh, yeah.
He was looking out at
3 years.
We'll see if they come back.
We're redoing for a.
You've been having a few
But they don't have as many hotels to
It looks like, yeah. Do you think that was a Holiday Inn Express?
We grew up together, Scott. She's like, what about the first one?
You go to the
I'm gonna go get the presentation. Like I said before.
I remember eating out
Just like somebody wants to have small gatherings and ask the city, groups of rich ladies, Sunday school class, besides their passive.
I'm not going.
Active attitude.
What's the honey?
I need to get with Diana. I don't know. I should have made sure because we've got to get Grace off.
That doesn't sound.
Sometime that week.
Is it on Q Pub? Yeah, that's her. That's them. Donna Danner is the show. That's her.
Great, thank you.
I plan to go, unless I'm in court someplace, I'm gonna go to religion.
Just like they
I think unless the city was gonna pay my way, you probably take that.
That's you versus your Carolina.
We can do that, no, thank you. I appreciate that.
Carolyn. So our lines, so the woman, was the Shoney's here.
so many high floors, because
I think
somebody's like a
she's fascinating person.
if you're on the
Donna
first
Danner.
floor, then you can see over the street.
Oh,
If
yeah.
you're on the first or the second floor.
They were looking at real estate in town.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but that.
Too bad it's not one of the official ones.
Yeah.
All right, turn your mics back on.
We're gonna call this meeting to order.
My mic is on.
Everybody, mic.
Is my mic on now?
I believe you're on.
Was my mic off all the other time?
How did that happen?
Just briefly, we're going to talk about masks, but just briefly this morning, and we know that the governor has opened it up for people to not wear masks at their discretion. We know that our city will open up fully July 1st. But my concern is still our council meetings here at City Hall. I would ask that we don't have to wear masks at our council meeting in July. We would be back behind the board here where David is. There would be more room here inside of City Hall for citizens to come if they so desire. And we will also be doing virtual too, is that right, Ken?
Yes, sir.
If they decide to watch it on virtual. But we would probably still limit the number of people that can come into this room so they can be distanced. And we don't know if they'll be vaccinated or not, and you can't ask them if they've been vaccinated or not. But we will ask them if they would, before they come in, to sign a sheet that they have been vaccinated, you know. And I think the limit, David, correct me if I'm wrong, could be 20, maybe with staff.
I'm not sure, Mr. Mayor, if you're moving back to the dais, it'll free up more space in here, even if we maintain distancing. I think it may be more than that. It could be even probably 30 with staff.
30 with staff.
We'll determine that based on the seating arrangement.
So, and our city employees, I think, have all been vaccinated.
Mr. Mayor, I can't ask that question
I know.
based on HIPAA rules. I am going to do a survey through Human Resources and ask voluntarily if the employees would tell me, not not particularly, just a blind survey to find out how many employees have been vaccinated, and perhaps do some incentives to get vaccinations.
Okay,
That's a work in progress.
okay. And going to our planning department over there, I think most employees still wear that mask, is that right? Over there, Ken, and they're safe because they do have a glass to separate them from the public when they comes in, you know, so it'll be, if they care not to wear a mask, then our employees are still safe over at the planning.
I've seen some signs in other areas where if you're not vaccinated, you might want to wear a mask, and if you are vaccinated, it kind of, you know, I don't know the science, so I don't know, but I've seen that in some places is kind of a policy.
Right, I think the policy in place now is in city buildings, then you are required to wear a mask to enter city building. I don't think that has been rescinded. What the best course might be is to rescind that or to modify that to say that if you've not been vaccinated, and it's all on the honor system, if you've not been vaccinated in a public building, to wear a mask.
Well, I've had a friend that has got contracted COVID post-vaccine.